Sometimes you do not miss the person at all. You miss the version of them your mind created. And that illusion can keep you trapped longer than the relationship ever did. There are people who stay emotionally attached long after someone has left, changed, disappointed them, or clearly shown who they are. Logic says move on. Reality says it was not healthy. Evidence says it was inconsistent, painful, confusing, or one-sided. And yet part of the mind keeps returning. Not always to what happened, often to what was imagined. This is one of the hardest emotional truths to accept. Many people do not grieve the real person. They grieve the potential, the fantasy, the beginning, the moments of tenderness, the promises, the chemistry, the version that appeared briefly and then disappeared. The mind is powerful at turning fragments into stories. A few meaningful conversations can become the image of a future soulmate. Small acts of attention can become proof of deep care. Intense chemistry can be mistaken for compatibility. Intermittent affection can feel more valuable because it is rare. Mixed signals can create obsession because uncertainty keeps the nervous system engaged. What you miss may not be the person as they were consistently. What you miss may be the emotional movie built around them. This happens because the mind hates unfinished stories. It wants coherence. It wants meaning. It wants to believe intense feelings pointed somewhere real. If a relationship ends painfully or never becomes what it seemed, the brain often tries to preserve dignity by holding on to the imagined version. It says they were special. It says there was something rare. It says if timing were different, everything would have worked. It says you lost the love of your life. Sometimes that story protects you from a more painful truth. Maybe they were emotionally unavailable. Maybe they liked attention more than intimacy. Maybe they wanted comfort, but not commitment. Maybe they were inconsistent, because inconsistency was who they were. Maybe you loved being chosen more than you loved being with them. Maybe the connection was intense, but not healthy. Those truths can sting the ego. Fantasy is often easier to hold than reality. There is another reason imagined versions become so sticky. The brain encodes emotional peaks strongly. It remembers the first kiss, the late night talks, the deep eye contact, the vulnerable confession, the feeling of hope, the moments when everything seemed possible. It stores those scenes brightly. Meanwhile, routine disappointments, anxiety, confusion, disrespect, avoidance, and emptiness can fade into the background. So memory becomes selective. You replay sparks and forget the smoke. You remember longing and ignore loneliness. You remember potential and minimize pattern. This creates emotional nostalgia for something that may never have existed in stable form. Many people say they miss how someone made them feel. That can be true, but even deeper is this. Often they miss who they were while hoping. Hope can feel intoxicating. When you believe love is beginning, life feels charged. Music sounds different. Ordinary days feel meaningful. The future feels open. You feel chosen, alive, seen, wanted, transformed. Then when the person leaves, it can seem like they took that feeling with them. But sometimes they did not create that feeling. They activated something already inside you. Your capacity for hope, your capacity for tenderness, your capacity for desire, your capacity for aliveness. You confuse the trigger with the source. That is why people chase the same unavailable types repeatedly. They are not chasing the person. They are chasing the emotional state that uncertainty once produced. There is also the wound of being almost loved. Clear endings can hurt deeply, but ambiguity often hurts longer. A relationship that fully existed and ended can be grieved, but something that almost happened, almost stabilized, almost became serious, almost turned into what you wanted, can haunt the mind because it lacks closure. The imagination fills that gap endlessly. What if I had said this? What if I were more patient? What if timing were different? What if they come back changed? What if we were meant to meet later? These thoughts can keep emotional doors open for years. But many times the pain is not from losing destiny. It is from losing possibility. And possibility is infinite in the mind. Reality is finite. That is why fantasy often feels stronger than truth. So how do you begin releasing someone who mostly exists in memory and imagination? First, separate moments from patterns. Anyone can produce beautiful moments. Few can sustain healthy patterns. Ask yourself not how high the highs were, but what the repeated reality looked like. Were they consistent? Were they honest? Were they available? Did you feel secure more often than anxious? Did effort flow both ways? Did the connection nourish you outside peak moments? Patterns tell the truth more than highlights. Second, grieve the fantasy honestly. Do not mock yourself for believing. Hope is human. Wanting love is human. Seeing potential is human. But name what was lost accurately. Maybe you lost a dream, not a partner. Maybe you lost imagined future scenes, not actual compatibility. Maybe you lost the version of them they performed in the beginning. That honesty hurts, but it heals cleaner than self-deception. Third, reclaim the qualities you assigned only to them. You may think they were the only one who made life feel alive. Usually that means they activated parts of you that still belong to you. Wonder, desire, playfulness, romance, depth, risk, connection. Those capacities did not leave with them. They are yours. Fourth, be careful with loneliness. Loneliness can repaint memories beautifully. When the present feels empty, the past can glow unrealistically. You may miss them most when you feel disconnected from yourself, not when they were actually right for you. This matters. Sometimes the cure is not reunion. It is rebuilding your own life. Fifth, watch the ego's need to be chosen. Some attachments survive because rejection wounds identity. You do not want them back as much as you want the story corrected. You want to be selected by the person who withheld themselves. That pursuit can masquerade as love. But love seeks mutuality. Ego seeks validation. Know the difference. Sixth, stop treating intensity as proof. Anxiety, inconsistency, longing, obsession, dramatic chemistry, emotional highs and lows can feel powerful. But powerful is not the same as healthy. Fireworks are bright and brief. A heart burns steady and warms the house. Many people are addicted to fireworks because steadiness feels less cinematic. But peace often looks ordinary before it feels sacred. There may come a day when you meet someone kind, available, calm, clear, and interested. And a part of you may call it boring, simply because your system was trained on chaos. Do not mistake unfamiliar peace for lack of connection. Sometimes maturity feels quieter than dysfunction. And finally, remember this. The person you miss may have been partly real and partly imagined. That does not make your feelings fake. It makes them human. The heart can love sincerely even when perception is incomplete. Do not shame yourself for caring, but do not imprison yourself for it either. You are allowed to update the story. You are allowed to admit that what you wanted and what existed were not the same thing. You are allowed to stop romanticizing someone who repeatedly showed limits. You are allowed to miss moments without calling them destiny. You are allowed to cherish what was good and still walk away from what was not enough. Healing often begins when memory loses its authority. When you stop asking who they could have been and start seeing who they consistently were. When you stop worshipping potential and start respecting reality. When you stop longing for the version that never stayed. Because sometimes the person you cannot let go of was never truly there in the form you needed. And the life waiting for you begins the moment you accept that.